ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Big Will Spotlight. We're going to discuss movies the Oscars don't care about. We're going to discuss movies that you care about. So go ahead, get yourself something to eat. Get yourself something to drink. Sit back and relax with your popcorn and your date as we go to Big Will Spotlight with your hosts, Big Will, Dr. Quack, and the important one, Mr. Mayhem.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Big Will Spotlight. I am your host, of course, Big Will.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. We're about done talking about comics, but it's important we figure out who is the best. The whole thing started with Marvel versus DC. Which one is better?
So we're going to cover, we're going to do a final day of Marvel, and then next week decided we're going to have like a battle royale. We're going to just let them fight it out and tell you who is the best.
There you go. We got someone here to help us putting together this list. Please welcome to the show, John. All righty. And for those of you out there who are watching, if you'd like to be involved in the conversation, Heart and Soul Promotions, the link is out there. Come check us out, and you can come join us if you know something about comic books, DC, or Marvel.
And you can argue with me all you want.
All right, so John, give us a little bit first. Marvel, DC, which is your favorite?
So honestly, when it comes to the whole comic-centric universe, when it's Marvel and DC, if I have to say something, it would be, let's see, movie-wise, it would be Marvel. TV show-wise, it would be DC. Comic book-wise, it just really depends on what my mood is.
Okay,
right.
So you cover the whole gambit then. There you go.
Well, I mean, he could always take it into the dark horse. And
yeah,
we haven't talked much about them, but, you know, you got people like, Hellboy and
the Tick.
Yeah, they got all sorts of stuff out there still. I mean,
I do like Hellboy.
All righty then.
They could have done a little better with some of those movies too, but, you know, hey, it's the best that Ron Perlman ever was, okay?
Yeah. And I can say...
not best looking Ron Perlman ever was.
Yeah. And I can say officially, one person not making the list is Howard the Duck.
Oh, come on.
We voted him off last time.
All right. So who are some of your favorites in the comic book world?
So if we're going Marvel side, Iron Man is hands down one of my top favorites. I do like the X-Men. DC, Batman, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. So it's on you. How'd you like to begin us?
Oh, I mean, like I say, we're just going to kind of travel down memory lane with some of the Marvel movies and everything like that. I actually didn't do a little research that I planned on, but that's okay. I mean, because you have X-Men, you got Avengers, and it's just like we're going to end up kind of bringing them together in our Battle Royale next week. But it's just, you had to go for one or the other. How about that?
Yeah, so there you go. Are you an Avengers or are you X-Men on the Marvel side of the universe?
I would have to. That's tugging at heartstrings right there, because I do like both sides so much. One actual person I did forget is actually Doctor Strange. I did forget that one, especially now that they have Benedict Cumberbatch as the Doctor Strange in the Marvel universe for movies. I actually love that. If I have to choose, it's gonna have to be Avengers, just because I'm just a huge fan of Iron Man. So it's like, if you were gonna say who do you want to see if it's Marvel versus DC, go at it, it would be Iron Man versus Batman, just because both are rich, both are very intelligent, and both don't have superpowers. It's based off of what they have built. So
That's a pretty interesting battle. I don't think anyone's brought that one up.
No, they haven't. And I mean, for all we know, that's where it's going to end up next week.
Yeah.
Um,
I must say I'm more of the X-Men side of the world. The Avengers seem to be too much focused upon everything leads to war, everything leads to war, everything leads to war, and the X-Men is a little bit more exploring into the psyche and the psychology and the nature of the nature versus nurture. Does being a mutant make you a better person? Does it just make you a stronger person? And I think that is explored. The humanity is a lot more explored in the X-Men world than it is in the Avenger world. And I like
side
that.
of it, yeah, because a lot of the X-Men characters, I mean, it's not their fault that they have mutant powers. They're born with it. I mean,
Right.
I think there's a couple that were given mutant powers, but for the most part, most of them were born with it, and all they want to do is be a normal. Well, for movies, since I know somebody ends up going to go there with Rogue, and Rogue can fly. No, this is when she was a teenager. She hasn't grown up yet. She doesn't know her full powers yet.
Well, plus she can steal powers the longer she touches somebody, and it can become permanent. So she along the way stole that ability to fly.
And there's a great place for Disney to look at taking the X-Men and going on now. Hey, let's follow these other characters like Rogue and Iceman. And
yeah, it'd be a lot better than what we previously discussed with the Star Wars. Eventually, you're going to run out of Star Wars interesting stories, but there's so many more X-Men that you can explore and make one-offs for years and never touch the same story twice.
Because I mean,
Maybe we actually might get Gambit.
Say again?
I'm sorry.
Maybe we actually might get Gambit for a change.
Well, Gambit was in Wolverine Origins.
Not very well.
I mean, I didn't say he was in there much. I mean, all he did was end up showing the few card tricks when him and Wolverine were fighting at the beginning, and then he flew him to the island and helped the kids get off of it. That was about it. I mean, it's not like he had a really gigantic, huge part enough to say he was there.
Right.
Well, there was talks at one point that just like because Deadpool at the very end, Wade Wilson pretty much at the end of that movie, and then all of a sudden it's like Deadpool got his own spin-off, and actually, even though it's totally different from what that movie was, and then there was talks that Channing Tatum was supposed to be Gambit in its own spin-off from that. So it'll be interesting to see it because since Disney has taken over, I will agree, they have room.
I don't know if Channing Tatum would be the best part for Gambit because Gambit really wasn't supposed to be a like muscly dude. I mean, granted, Channing Tatum's not this ginormous, huge, blah, I am the Rock. He's got, I mean, but Gambit was a well-dressed, like New Orleans, like royalty lord kind of thing, and I mean, just doesn't seem like Tatum would probably be the best place for that to go. But what do I know? I'm not a big, fan.
Yeah, I do not disagree. It will be interesting to see because just like you guys brought up, the whole Disney now owns the X-Men and they can actually do whatever they really want with it. It would be fun to see. Are they gonna go back to how it was? What was it? X-Men '97, which they're bringing back the cartoon and adding on to that. And are they actually going to bring that to real life? And from that, okay, now you have another superhero group that Disney has control of now, which is the Fantastic Four, which has had terrible movies in the past. So obviously you can't get any worse than it was. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go from there as well.
Well, I mean, at least with the first Fantastic Four franchise, they at least came out with two. I mean, I don't know why it didn't get quite the following that it probably should have.
Because it was a horribly told story.
Yeah. I was not a huge fan of the story.
I think if they would have spread the first movie out a little more, made it 2 or 3 movies, this is how they got to where they got their powers. Give them, the backstory of each one. And then, oh, they got the powers. We're discovering them. Let's end the movie here. Next one, they start building the group together. But again, what do I know?
It was the same thing that I discussed in the Green Lantern of they tried to rush to get to the fight versus telling the story.
Very much so.
All right, so now that we've discussed that, how about some DC? Who are some of your favorites on the DC side?
Well, obviously, like the greatest story told on DC is obviously to me is Batman and Joker, and my favorite heel side of it would be Harley Quinn, because to me Harley Quinn is the brains for the Joker. So
she kind of kept him in line.
Yeah,
I'll give her that one.
Black, like you have Shazam, Black Adam, Wonder Woman, which to me the start of the turnaround when it came to DC movies would have to be Wonder Woman. I just have to say that because like my favorite movie of all time would have is still Batman Forever with Riddler.
Okay.
Jim Carrey as the Riddler. It's just
Tommy Lee Jones. Yep.
Tommy Lee Jones. Was it? You had Nicole Kidman in the movie. What's his face on NCIS now?
Which one are we thinking?
O'Connell.
Chris O'Donnell or Connell. Yeah.
Chris O'Donnell is. I can never remember Alfred's name. The guy who actually played Alfred, and
it's escaping me right off the top of my head. To
me, he's iconic.
He is a very iconic person. That's why I say it's hard to believe his name is escaping me. Michael Caine. Woo!
No, that was Michael Caine was in the other set.
Yeah, Michael Caine was Christian Bale.
Yeah, he was with Christian Bale.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I gotcha.
Was with Kilmer.
Yeah.
Kilmer.
I don't remember that one's name off the top of my head.
But you were about to go on a sidetrack for a topic before I asked John about DC. So what were you going to go?
Oh, no, it was perfectly fine. I mean, it was just, going out there and, seeing kind of where Marvel itself kind of started getting into which movie came out first kind of thing. And it was like, you got to give credit to the Iron Man. I mean, and then, it was like, which came out first, Iron Man or X-Men? Well, Iron Man did. So, I mean, it was just giving credit to the movie that got the franchise kick-started and going in the direction it is.
All righty.
It was just pointing out. Yep.
All right. So then let's kind of go over the list here a little bit. And if you're watching along and you want to give a for or against some of these people, by all means, you can do that. So the first one we got on the list here from the DC side of the world is Sinestro. Sinestro is the main villain in the Green Lantern series with the use of the yellow powers.
Yes, and he's actually... That's where I was wanting the movie to go, but that's another story because they needed to get the story out there in the first place for you to want to follow it.
Exactly. So what's your thoughts on Sinestro?
I could be for or against it. To me, Sinestro's power really is the Green Lantern's core anyway. It's the same stuff the Green Lantern's core can use. Obviously, it's just yellow instead of green.
Because each one is based off of the different, not really feelings, but
emotions. Because it's a fear.
Because the green is like free will and the yellow is fear.
Right.
So
red is rage. Yeah. And blue is love, I think is what the colors are.
Yeah. So he's a strong contender when it comes to it. Now, depending on what the rest of the list holds, you may look at him as, okay, he could be a dark horse of anything can happen. It depends on who he goes up against in a battle royal. So
Right. All righty. And the next one we have is one of your favorites, Harley Quinn.
the brains of the operation.
There you go.
Like
So then, she's gonna be on the list. We're gonna get because got to shorten up a little bit and everything like that. So Catwoman, on or off? Got a list, people. Come on.
I would. Catwoman's like as much as I do like Catwoman, I think Catwoman's up in the air on if you keep like. It depends on who else are you like. Who would else be a contention of being on the list? Catwoman really was never like the big bad villain, a big bad villain or a big hero to begin with. So.
Well, that's why I pointed out she's like kind of in the middle, so it doesn't really matter who she goes up against. She's still got to fight. I mean,
well, okay. So who's not on the list so far that we can think of that could be on the list?
well, if we had thought of people who aren't on the list, they might be on the list. We wouldn't be asking you.
So, I may have to go back as we're still talking about the list. I may have I may have to give you an idea after at the very end.
All right.
Some idea.
Next one, Deathstroke.
I'll let you guys start talking about it. I'm gonna think about Deathstroke.
It's just one of them things, like I point out. I mean, it's not like he has superpowers or anything like that, but he doesn't miss. Well, either does Hawkeye or Green Arrow or any of them. They don't miss. Somebody's gonna miss sometime.
Yeah, you are right about that.
So that's why I say, you got to have some people on the list. I mean, apparently, if Deathstroke didn't lose, it would be a Deathstroke world, not, Batman world.
There you go.
Also based off of who's he never really does things unless he's actually getting paid to do it to begin with. So,
Yes.
It's who's putting him up to the challenge, to do it to begin with. So I don't know. It again could be it could be another dark horse, but the thing is, someone's gonna have to miss because there's other characters that are in this that they also have a thing of not missing. And
well, then there's also people, if you look at it, that I'll just use on the other side of the Marvel side, Sebastian Shaw, who absorbs energy. If you shoot him, he absorbs that power, so he doesn't care if you miss.
Mm-hmm. He's a real threat. So.
Yeah, because I mean, there are so many people. So I say, I mean, we gotta. Well, I'm trying to shore things up and have an even number. I can't say even. Of people without superpowers and people with superpowers. I mean, don't know how that would end up playing out in real life, and that's why I got a list.
Yep.
We're gonna
Figure
battle it out, and hopefully, we have a couple of people that come on here to help judge instead of just, me and the important one.
Yeah, the next one though is Aquaman.
That's another one where it's at the it's a toss up with same thing with Catwoman. To me, yes, in the movies they made Aquaman look really, really good. His main power is really being able to control the sea, and pretty much everything that inhabits it. Inhabits the sea. So, I don't know. I like it. If we're talking a water terrain battle royal, you have a battle right there for them. But other than that,
Throw me for a loop. Are we going to have to come up with different fighting areas?
No, all of that should be, for lack of a better term, in a vacuum.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we do the fight.
Right.
Okay.
And my 4 on Aquaman, you're right. The cartoons made him out to be a real big joke. Riding big seahorses and and talking to fish. He didn't really do a whole lot. But you take into account when he comes out of all the atmospheric pressure of the ocean onto the earth, onto the regular ground, his strength is almost unmatched. So the strength, and the ability, basically he moves faster because, he's not, the resistance of the water is not affecting him, but is that enough to put him over the top?
Well, I mean, that's why, hey, the Lego movies are wonderful, people. If you haven't seen those, hey, they make fun of this stuff too.
Very true.
I would say that not really. Like, if you think about it, okay, possibilities of who Aquaman could go against. You have Batman, who pretty much give him time, he's going to find a way to beat everybody. What's the big thing about him with the whole Justice League? He built a safety measure to go against every single member of the Justice League just in case something bad were to happen. And that's even including himself. So you give anybody the opportunity, they could, like I said, his main thing is the water, and that's his home turf. So I don't know. It's like he could be there. I don't know. To me, he'd be at the bottom of the list.
Alrighty. Well, the next one we have on here is Brainiac.
So I'll talk about my first real big exposure to Brainiac. I love playing video games. Played Injustice and Injustice 2, and just how Brainiac can control everything after a while. It's like if anybody hasn't played the game, I'm sorry, I'm kind of gonna spoil a little bit, but Brainiac ends up technically winning overall, and then at the end of Injustice, and then all of a sudden Superman, yes, wins at the very end in Injustice 2, but Superman also becomes the bad guy. So he's really good at, he can control your mind.
Yeah,
if needed. So
he's definitely dominant. Him and Professor X would be another really good mind battle, but it'd be kind of a boring one to watch unless you're being the one they control.
Yeah, because all you do is sit there and see people.
Yeah.
But if you could put that together, that would be an interesting watch.
That would be all in the mind. There would be no it would be just having to see what's going on in their minds, somebody's perspective on what it could possibly be. Oh, we want to really go through the list, or we just want to talk?
We can talk. We can do whatever. I mean, we're having a little conversation here about this.
I mean, just because you're trying to find somebody to replace, Catwoman with.
We don't need to go there. He's still thinking on
it. Because we're supposed to be talking about Marvel right now.
Now then, let's flip to the Marvel side for a little bit.
All right. I mean,
we already know your answer on Iron Man.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk a little bit more about X-Men. How about that?
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about more the Avengers side of it.
All
right. So, X-Men, go.
Rogue.
Yeah,
Rogue's on our list.
Rogue's a very powerful one. You have Jean Grey, you have Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Storm, Iceman. I keep forgetting the big steel guy's name. It's
Colossus.
Technically, do we really say Deadpool was part of X-Men at one point? Because I know he was part of X-Force.
Well, that's why it's one of those things that Deadpool was able to kind of take off on his own kind of thing. Because, I mean, if you go by the movie, Deadpool's dead.
Right. But
that's why I'm saying, I mean, with Wolverine Origins, I don't know if that's why they didn't specifically refer to him as Deadpool. And the only thing that it was Deadpool was at the credits.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to refer to him as Weapon X, but Weapon X has several different names, depending upon is he Wolverine? Is he Wolverine's kid? Is it the clone they made of Wolverine? Which one is Weapon X?
Yeah,
Because I want to say that Wolverine is actually not number 10. He's number 1. It might have been 10th experiment. I don't know. But he's the first one to survive the experiment.
Okay.
So officially he'd be number 1. But, I mean, is what it is. I mean, you have like X-21, I think, which I think is supposed to be his kid.
Yeah, because the one at the end of Logan, the one for
Logan was 29 or something like that.
So, like she's another mutant that's. I think they're still building her character in the comics. So, especially now after Logan, and she's a strong candidate. But like when it comes to X-Men, the first two that have to be on the list, obviously Professor X and Wolverine. Those are the two. Those are the marquee names right there that you start with.
And then on the other side, Mystique and Magneto.
And that's the Brotherhood. Obviously, you just said it. Mystique.
We got Phoenix on here too, which you already mentioned with Jean Grey. Anyway.
Yeah.
To
me, if I had to pick an X-Men to win overall, it would have to be Jean Grey, because if like whether it's her as Jean Grey or her as the Phoenix, it's her power gets stronger. Saber-Tooth,
since she's a class 5, like to begin with,
right?
Yep. Saber-Tooth, underrated underrated henchman who's very strong, pretty much can match up with Wolverine, and what was it? Movie wise, they said it was Logan's brother.
Yeah, they're brothers.
So, I'm not really going much on Toad because obviously the first X-Men movie pretty much gets struck by lightning by Storm and he's done. It really is not big. So
most people you get struck by lightning and you're done.
Yeah.
So, like when it came to the first X-Men movie, I loved Toad. It was just like it was unique. Okay, a guy who pretty much has a really long tongue that pretty much takes a bird, eats it, and then has the senator go, ugh. So,
yeah,
like
Toad was interesting. I liked Toad.
Somebody that I thought they did a good job with the newer X-Men. Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, that fight scene where he's just like running around the room and everything else is like pretty much dead stopped. He's just like,
yeah, I enjoyed that.
That was a great scene.
Now, now I got to get you guys' thoughts on this real quick. The whole wanted to bring the whole like the Quicksilver and Wanda from the Avengers side and also tie it into X-Men as well, because obviously they were like mutants and everyone
like the crossover, and I'm sure that it was for the comic purposes to see which universe they would work out better in. And I mean, Quicksilver is more mentioned in both of them than in. He's more mentioned in X-Men than in Avengers, and pretty much they killed him off quickly for the movie purpose. And I don't know if that's because.
Yeah, it was interesting when they for them doing that, and then having what's his face come back during say WandaVision, and it's actually the X-Men version of Quicksilver, but it gave him a total different name and acted like, oh no, it was nothing. So it's very interesting, I guess. I'm like we obviously have a big list of them right now for mutant wise for X-Men.
What's weird is I just didn't realize that until you just mentioned it.
What's that?
That the Quicksilver in WandaVision was the one from X-Men instead of the one that was in Avengers movies.
Right.
Now,
good catch on that.
now, if I remember right, is like the whole story of Wanda and Quicksilver is they're supposed to technically be Magneto's children, correct? and
Yes.
because if I remember right, that is comic wise, that's
Right.
they alluded to it during the it wasn't X-Men First Class, was it?
It was the second one, Days of Future Past.
Yeah, when they broke Quicksilver out of jail. No, I thought that was
he helped break Magneto out of jail.
yes, there was Magneto.
And they alluded to it that, it was a joke of my mom knew, something about metal or something like that was kind of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a throwback there. So since he had to, step out here for a quick second, drain soda. So with Disney, do you want Disney to kind of undo some of the retcon stuff that was done in the movies to change things around, or do you want to basically to just start over?
I think they're going to end up starting over. And obviously this isn't a huge spoiler because they showed it in trailers. Obviously, they have Patrick Stewart coming back as Professor X for Doctor Strange 2. So obviously you're getting a different version of Professor X. So I'm thinking that's where they're gonna use the X-Men universe actually for his universe, which is actually X-Men 97 with the big gold hover chair. So I just honestly believe they're not going to try to go back and change things out. They're going to just be like leave what they have already done, and then just say, okay, here's a new canon universe that we're going to create. And I have the same feeling that they're going to do the same thing when it comes to Fantastic Four as well. It's going to be the same thing, whole different universe, and they're going to find a way to bring them in.
Just so long as they kind of don't end up. I mean, I'm bringing up DC now, and they just keep restarting the same story with each cycle, and you can only have so many times that you do a backstory before even the movie fans are sitting there. No, that's not what they did the first time. I mean, take it. I mean, don't do the same backstory. You don't have to absolutely do a backstory. You can just, hey, this is.
Well, you need just a little bit of backstory just for the basis of what your purpose is.
Well,
but you don't need a long diatribe. You could just have a simply, here it is, here's our time, these characters, here's where we're beginning.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you already started it off. You don't need a backstory again.
Right.
You just.
Well, you could take and I loved what they did with the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Movie was underrated as much, like people were giving it garbage ratings and stuff. I actually thought it was great. I was glad that we didn't have to go back and see Bruce watch his parents die again and again and again after change. And I'm glad they just started. Fine. This is 2 years after he became Batman, and you're now starting to see the change. And I'm excited that they're actually going to do a second one. Now, obviously, they're going to have, it seems like Riddler and Joker together in the second one. So
that would be interesting.
I might be trying to do too much comedy.
It's the comedy. It's going to be from what it sounded like if you go through the movie and listen to the end credit scene, the Joker that they're gonna it sounds like they're gonna use is the same one. If you've watched Gotham, it's the same one that's played. It's the same kid that pretty much plays Joker in Gotham, is what it sounds like. And he's not funny. To me, he wasn't a funny Joker. He was more like a Heath Ledger. He's more on the serious side than he is funny.
No, that's why I'm saying. I mean, you're going to have the psychopath who's trying to
burn down the world.
Yeah, and then somebody making jokes about it.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
I mean,
I did not like.
At the same time, Riddler wasn't so much.
Riddler wasn't a comedy character
either. Yeah, I mean, it would work. Yeah, it could work. It's just almost too much bad guy. You have too many bad guys at the same time.
Mhm.
It's like you're cutting a leg off on where you could take a story for something else.
Yeah, and I like how they start. Like in this one, I liked how they started the story off with Bruce and Selena in a whole different angle than you're used to seeing. And I actually I prefer the Riddler, like the Jim Carrey version. I'd rather have him be the funny goof than the serious. Like that's why I thought having Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones together, having the two different Two-Face and then the Riddler together, I thought that worked perfect, where you had one serious and one having fun. And it'd be interesting to see it, because it looks like Selena Kyle in this version of the Batman would be she's not starting out as a heel. She's a face.
Okay. And I agree. I like the Jim Carrey portrayal until the end. I thought the ending was kind of, oh damn, we're running out of ideas. It was going good. Then, damn, what do we do next? Oh well, let's end it.
I'm Batman.
See, we were talking about X-Men. All of a sudden, about Batman again.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yes, I would love if they were to come out with X-Men and kind of just continue from where they were. I mean, you can have your offshoots and go after and do Gambit. Bring in a story about Juggernaut. I mean, they got so many ways that they can go, but from where they are now, I wouldn't want them to go back and kind of start over again. I don't absolutely want Storm and Cyclops and all that. I mean, they've got to age. They finally got to, go somewhere, but then you can get into the future ones with Gage and Cable. And I mean, they've got so many ways that they can take this. And if they go into the future one, they can go on from they take that a couple, and then they can go back and start all over again, introduce new people into the roles, and get the favorite comic, old school kind of thing going. So I mean, if you were to try and do X-Men right now and kind of start over again, I mean, and cast Wolverine the way that he should have been cast.
I was just about to ask who, like, if you're not doing Hugh Jackman right now,
that's why I'm saying, because you almost can't do it without it being, everybody's going to expect him. Wolverine was not a 6'4",
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it was a short little 5'6", 5'7" dude with the weird chops and. I mean, chops, not like, goatee kind of thing. And I mean, just Terry everywhere.
So I don't know if this is going to tie towards the X-Men or not, because Marvel hasn't specifically said where his role is going to be. But could Keanu Reeves actually be a part of the X-Men series at some point? Or is he going to be under the other half where it was the Avengers banner? Because they just announced that he has signed on. It's just they're not going to reveal what his
I could actually see Keanu Reeves playing Magneto. I actually could.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. I actually, if I would put money on it, I would think what they would do is the same guy who both Magneto and Professor X from X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, I would say they would bring them back, because they've worked a lot, and I think it'd be interesting to see them work further. And I could see two versions of X-Men going. You have the X-Men X-Men 97 side, and then you have a continuation of what they were doing for First Class and whatnot.
And that's why I'm saying, I mean, if they're going to try and take this forward and not be in the past where, I mean, mostly they have mutant powers, but they don't live forever.
Nope.
I mean, most of them don't. So, I mean, at some point in time, Professor X, Magneto, and all them got to die off. I mean, they just will. So I mean, if they, like I say, if they kind of go with the future kind of thing, I don't know what kind of a role that Keanu Reeves would end up being, but if they go back and they bring in where it is like that kind of stuff, but I mean, somebody just kind of pointed it out there. Yeah, that watching John Wick, that's why I could see Keanu Reeves playing Magneto. He can do the bad guy without being a bad guy thing.
The charismatic bad guy character.
So there was an article that talked about what, like, Keanu originally said that if he was going to be in Marvel, there's one character he would like to portray. It is not an X-Men character. It's actually Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
For the person who's saying, why are you not in this conversation? The link is out there if you'd like to join us.
I could honestly see Keanu being Ghost Rider. I'm just like, half of me can see it, half of me can't, because I don't like. Obviously, Keanu is on the older side. I've also, you really don't see the brash cockiness out of a Keanu Reeves that warrants him being Johnny Blaze. So I thought Nicolas Cage did a great job.
No, I wouldn't want to see Keanu Reeves playing Johnny Blaze. I mean, I really Nicolas Cage was pretty much the right character to cast in that. I mean, the second one, they kind of made him a little more on the crazier side of it, but I mean, it is what it's got to be, you know? I mean, there are just some people who are made for roles, and I don't think Keanu Reeves being Ghost Rider.
No, not Ghost Rider. I don't agree with that one either. For better or for worse, Nicolas Cage has kind of made that character. I don't think he was the right actor, but everybody's gonna be like, but it's Nick Cage.
No, I mean, that's why I say, I mean, his personality and everything like that. I don't know if this is after he was robbed kind of thing and started just doing movies just to make money. I don't remember if the first one was after that or not. I think the second one was. I mean, you can only ask so much of somebody, and that's why I said you can cast characters in some things, but they're just not going to work out, and that's why a lot of movies end up failing. It's a combination of the director and the artist. I mean, it is what it is.
Very true. Very true. So we got our person that reached out to us and asked why they're not in the conversation is about to join us in here. So in the meantime, my first thought process, I'm one of the few, because I didn't read the comics, I actually like the original 3 X-Men movies that led to Leech, that led to Angel not really being a part of the group, but he was there. I liked the way Beast was brought in. I liked all of that. The Brotherhood, the way that was put together. And I thought, well, Days of Future Past was actually a decent movie. I thought they took away a lot of the mystique from that. And the other person is going to join us here. So welcome to the show, Negan Al Ghul. All right.
What's up, everybody?
So we are talking X-Men. We're talking the Avengers. We're talking some DC. We've been talking about it for a while. And let's get some of your feeling in here on what's your thoughts on the comic world versus the movie world when it comes to comics.
Well, I caught some of it. Hopefully my headphones work. That'll be nice if they work. Some of the conversations that were mentioned are accurate, honestly. But if you look at most things, then if you realize that Ghost Rider hasn't made another single, pretty much hasn't made a movie since the second one where he went against Decay and the Devil himself. So they're supposed to be apparently making a new whole line of Ghost Rider, but along with the aspects of it, I mean, look at it from this point of view. You've also got the new Morbius movie that just came out. In the comics, Morbius meets Blade, and I believe it was the second or third comic where they come together and they go after all the vampires, and they end up teaming up. But then Blade asks Morbius that they should fight and see how well it would go, because Blade being the Daywalker and, of course, the vampire slayer, and you got Morbius, who is the vampire, after injecting himself with all kinds of DNA and all kinds of other stuff that made him more powerful, more deadly. It would only aspects if Keanu Reeves play as a character, because if he does play a character, that's going to definitely take a whole lot of getting introduced to and used to, because we're all used to seeing him as in Constantine, John Wick, a few other movies that he's done in comic verses,
Yeah. But that's why I was just saying, I mean, does Ghost Rider actually age, or is he the Ghost Rider for like hundreds of years and then it gets passed on?
And they didn't explain that very well in the movie, with Sam Elliott being the old Rider. Yes, he was 100 and some odd years old, but did he start out at that age, or was that he slowly aged over time?
If I remember right, in the comics, Ghost Rider does actually pass on, just like how the Green Lantern, it passes on. It's not.
Well, that's what I was saying. Do you not age while you're the rider until it gets passed on, or do you age while you're the rider?
There's gonna be one name that I'm on the list: Apocalypse.
Yes, that's one of the people that we've talked about putting on the list. But like I say, it's just one of them things, trying to kind of keep like the regular people on there, and not just people with powers.
Well, I mean, he's the powers. He's a god.
Yeah,
and the his I'm drawing a blank on what his group was called.
Wasn't he part of Sinister?
So Negan, what's your thoughts here on some of the some X-Men people who would, if we were to put together an ultimate fight?
Ooh. An ultimate fight, and using the X-Men, right?
We're talking X-Men right now, but we'll work through Avengers.
Yeah, towards the end of this, it's going to be Marvel versus DC, and I mean, if you're available next weekend, we'll use it for a judge too, because we're just gonna let them fight it out pretty much.
Have you read the DC versus Marvel comics?
I did not.
Okay. It's actually...
that's why I'm saying this is a discussion on whether, the comic, because I know there is a comic. I just I don't read very much. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm doing movies, not books. So, I mean...
There's actually a set of 5 comics that they did, and they all tied together. And it was pretty interesting that what they had happen, because like you had Supergirl, you had I'm trying to remember the few, like they did have a few X-Men in there. I think Storm was in there. I don't think Professor X. I think it was like Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine were in the comic. It was actually pretty interesting. It was cool. I actually have two sets of them. So
All right. So Negan, did you have any that you think should be added in?
Well, seeing that X-Men was the first legitly Marvel that I got hooked on after seeing the process of Rogue, after she met Logan, if X-Men had to take its toll between the X-Men, the Avengers, Sinister Six, any of the high class, villain errors, whether it be Marvel or DC, X-Men would definitely, I think, rock some domes because they're all mainly mutants. So most of the Avengers are either processed either out of their own equipment or out of a bottle. No offense, Captain America.
All right. So,
well, that's why I point out to most people. I mean, that's why it's like, you get into the debate on where people get their powers from and everything like that. They're either radioactive kind of stuff or they're gods or from space. And that's why it's always like, who would you rather be? You want to be struck by lightning to get your power or born with it? Or do you just want to be a regular person who could go on to be live a regular life when, you just are super at what you do? So that's why I say this is why it's kind of getting boiled down to the difference in I can't even say worlds because it happens in both of them. Just is what it is.
I definitely have to be a mutant. I would have to be a mutant.
I would say Nightcrawler has to be also one of the top ones on the list. Just being able to, he can travel into place to place as long as he can be able to. He's seen it.
I mean, if we start getting because right now I've got it built into where there's going to be like 16 versus 16.
Right.
Okay. I mean, the next spot up would be 32, versus 32, 64 people, that were.
And I'll say, would you use Nightcrawler? Or would you use Azazel? Because Azazel doesn't need to see where he's going to get there. He could just teleport and there it is.
But does he end up in like objects?
No, he as he's teleporting, he can see where he's going and go there. He doesn't need to see it and immediately jump there.
Now,
he can go there if he's ever as he's going. He just does it immediately.
I honestly thought Azazel was actually Nightcrawler.
No, they're two different people.
It's his father.
Yep.
And Mystique's his mother, which makes Storm his grandmother or aunt.
Wow.
I've got a whole backdrop of the X-Men. Like I said, X-Men was one of my first because if you look at it, now this is where everyone's all like, no, that's impossible. And Mr. Villain, I know you're out there somewhere watching. If you go back in your history and you look, Phoenix, Rogue, Magneto, Professor Xavier, and Wolverine are the 5 highest class-topped mutants in the X-Men world that are supposed to be the biggest top levels. Because the way that Rogue got her levitation is because she kills one of the high-class mutants. And I believe it was either Magneto or someone else to get her levitation. Wolverine, I give Hugh Jackman his Wolverine role. I definitely give him that. But the fact that Wolverine never had a heart. He didn't was all no lovey-dovey. He wasn't any of this. Wolverine was a high-class brute who didn't give a shit about what he was doing. If you got in his way, he was going to kill you.
To get through you, to get
Wolverine is definitely... Exactly. He was a brute. There was no lovey-dovey anything about him as, hey, bub, or his smoking his cigars and all this. So when they did Logan and they gave him that rage that he has, that was the best thing because that was the most that we've ever seen Logan kill people. Like, just straight annihilate fools.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of killing in the third movie of the first group when he came across the Brotherhood when they sent Scorpion and a few others after him, and he was just running through taking them all down before Magneto got a hold of him. But I want to ask a little side topic here as we're wrapping this up here. Since Disney owns it, who would be one of the people who's not really been explored you'd like to see a movie about? Good guy or bad guy? And I'll even start it, Jamie Madrox. Multiple Man.
Gambit.
Okay.
Gambit would be a good one. Like I pointed out, I mean, I don't know why. I've just always been a fan of Juggernaut.
Okay. So then does Disney do it the comic book way where he got a helmet from outer space, or is he a mutant?
Definitely have to say mutant.
Yeah, he's a mutant.
I would agree.
Yep.
So, Mr. John, do you have a name you'd add to the list?
I would have to agree with Gambit. Just because it's been already teased once before. It would be interesting to see who would they put in that role, because they're gonna have to have that cocky side to him. And not only do you get to be able to do Gambit, but you can also probably start to do.
Well, I could say who I would like to see him from NCIS New Orleans. The not the main character, but his name is Chris, the cop character because he's got that Louisiana accent already, and that's where Gambit is from New Orleans. Why not have somebody with a little authenticity that speaks that way to begin with?
Well, we don't know that he's actually from, not Gambit, but the character, just because he has the accent. But you're used to seeing him that way.
He has the chops to pull it off, at least have the convincing accent.
Yeah.
Another one to see that would be really interesting would be them actually doing a full focused series on just Rogue herself as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because then you could tie that into Gambit, because obviously they get married to. It's like you could yes, you can go out, spin off, do Gambit, Rogue, Nightcrawler. You could start spinning off on some of them. I think there's I've heard some people say, well, I want to see Magneto. They kind of already done Magneto.
Yeah, they've done Magneto. That's why I say, at some point in time, you got to kind of get away from characters that you're used to being this way right now. Because, they get old. They die. You got to end it at some point in time. And that's why I say, if it's not needed anymore, don't try and continue it.
Well, they didn't really go into full detail about, say, let's see, Cyclops, Jean Grey. You can pretty much do a whole series just for her, because you can date it all the way back from the very beginning, rather than in X-Men 1 they show Jean playing with the discs and Cyclops doing the whole laser thing. Obviously, with you do a movie series on that, you also get Cyclops involved, and then do one with Storm, because then, hey, guess what? Storm and T'Challa get married. You can push that forward and give it more life. So it'd be very interesting to see what they actually will do.
Yeah, that way they can actually cross them over and stuff like that. That's why I say, you can take some stuff and move forward with something, take side streets and stuff like that, but.
Well, I know this is not X-Men related, but now that, with T'Challa actually dying, I keep forgetting his name off the top of my head. with him actually dying, what are they going to do? Are you just going to bring would you bring back
If
Michael
they
B.
just
Jordan?
wait a couple of years, they're going to able to just to kind of slide somebody else into the slot. I mean, what was the name of Spartacus? There was a TV show on, not Showtime.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Anyway,
about.
guy died after the first season. They brought in another guy, and they continued on for 3-4 more seasons. I mean, you just gotta slide somebody in there. Just change, give an excuse for something to have changed, and it can go on.
Very true. All righty. So we've hit about the hour mark. Negan, you joined us late. Are you available for the next time we go on, and we can talk a little bit more, and we can kind of figure out this battle here?
Yeah, because it said Marvel versus DC, and I'm actually in the process of watching the Arrowverse again for like the 15th time. Because I just did.
We started this a couple of months ago of talking about Marvel versus DC, and we're slowly getting to the end of this. It's time to move on, so we have to have the finale, and it wouldn't be a finale without Negan.
I'm definitely going to have to set my schedule.
All right. And John, will you be available to come back with us?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be available.
All righty. So we're going to hammer this list out. We're going to have 16 DC, 16 Marvel, and we're going to talk about the DC side, the Marvel side, who's the winner and who wins it at the end. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. All right, we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Right.